business owners that puts them in front of a global audience. And in behind those shows is a whole range of things, from digital magazines to social media to blogging to email to lead generation, just a whole range of things. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Everyday Business Show, where we talk about life, business, and the universe, and what that looks like for our amazing guests across the planet. Now, if you're watching this show live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or the Everyday Women's Network, please know that attached to this interview are the notes. So if you miss anything, you can find where to connect with our phenomenal guests, where to connect with me, and how to catch up on all the latest shows. So please sit back, listen, and watch as we get on with the show today. A reminder too that the Everyday Women's Network is a Netflix-like network where we amplify the voices and perspectives of women across the planet. We are always looking to connect to and talk to content producers across the globe, or men working predominantly with or for women. Now, each and every week before we get on with the show, we do an acknowledgement to country, which is an important part of making sure that we respect the contribution of our Indigenous and Torres Strait Islanders to the cultural identity development of Australia. So today, I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and broadcast, and I want to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders watching or listening today. Now, today we get to talk to our very own mystic, and we're going to be talking about mystical mentoring. And the title of this interview is called Into Your Mystic with Jeannine Kim. But before I introduce you to this gorgeous human being, here's what you need to know. Jeannine is a modern mystic. For over 23 years, she's been offering wisdom as support as an intuitive healer, a 5D astrologer, a medium, a teacher, and a yoga instructor, as well as a holistic health practitioner. She has clients worldwide. Jeannine's work dives deeply into the shamanic root of soul trauma. And we all have some sort of soul trauma, believe me. This stems from beyond our current lifetime, and it's important to dissolve the dynamics that are present within our life today whilst accessing masteries ready to be realized in your own life. Her main passion is to share the ancient, simple, yet potent and practical ways of empowering how we can be in all areas of our lives, while teaching the ways to access our own intuitive selves and be drawn into ourselves to live our better life. So today, I want to welcome to the show, Jeannine Kim. Welcome to the show, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Saying Jeannie. I'm Australian bad habit. Hybridizing names. Jeannine, welcome to the show, lovely lady.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Now, I wanted to start the show today by with one of your favorite quotes, and it goes, "Into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul," by John Muir. Jeannine, can you explain why you love this quote so much?
This quote, I feel, speaks to the heart of how we could become more authentic and more attuned with our life in general. And so when we lose the mind, which is the conditioning, that conditioned aspect of us, then we hop into that soul, and there's so much more sovereignty and authenticity when we do. So yeah, it's my favorite.
Definitely. So, Jeannine, you've been doing this work for a long period of time, and I wanted to talk to you about that journey, because there's loads of elements within your story and within your practice and work that have gotten you to this powerful point of time in your life. So, are you happy to talk us through your journey thus far?
Sure, I would love to. You know, a main part of this, which is quite interesting and I think potent to the end game, is that I was born in 1967, but adopted.
What a year!
And so yes, 19, great year, summer of love too, by the way. But 1967, the context of adoption and being adopted was way different. You know, my mother went to a home for unwed mothers. There was a lot of shame around that. And then when I was adopted, about 4 to 6 months later, after birth, I was welcomed into a beautiful family. But it's like when you have that childhood wound, there's always a feeling of wanting to be accepted. And it's just hard in there. We couldn't speak of that trauma back in the day. It really wasn't anything to support that mental understanding. So being born that way, for starters, and then also having an intuitive capacity at a very young age. I would get dreams of things. I would share them with my mother, who was raising me, and she would be shocked. I would have a dream about a house we were going to, and then we'd pull up and there it was. And my mom would be so afraid. And I interpreted that as being, let's not talk about it anymore. Let's not go there anymore. So I kind of tucked that away. Years go by, and I moved out fairly young, about 17 or 18. I had a pretty tricky childhood, went out on my own, but I went into the financial industry and I found a way to really, really survive. I'm great with numbers. I know how to let things roll off my back. Born in the south side of Chicago. I'm kind of rough and tough that way. Tons of brothers. So, I was able to thrive in a really tricky environment, or so I thought. I could survive, but not thrive. So for years, I built my way up, worked my way up the ladder. I received a Series 7, a Series 63, which was needed at the time here in America. I don't know if that still holds, but I was allowed to trade, and I worked up to be an IPO trader at Solomon Smith Barney years ago. And in those years, I was still studying, reading like Shirley MacLaine books, Andrew Weil, Gary Zukov, tons of organic, holistic ways of living, because I'm so sensitive. I'm an HSP, which is a highly sensitive person by nature, empath. There were two parts of me living inside. They just weren't growing together. I would go to work and do my thing and kind of, make it through a tough day. And it was tricky. It was tricky in the 90s. It was a man's world, and I love my men, but it was tough. It was tough. And so before you know it, this inside part of me just could not, it was overflowing. Couldn't stay away from it any longer. And I remember deciding, that's it, I'm going to become a healer. And I went to school at night and got my massage therapy license, and then left the industry and didn't look back. Got my nose pierced, got rid of all my clothes, and went straight into the healing work in the early 2000s.
And that was like just the beginning of the journey, though, wasn't it, Jeannine?
It was the beginning. It was the beginning of walking the talk, because when you step into a truth like that, the whole context for me, especially the whole context of my life shifted, which means the players of that game, people, places, things,
everything changes.
Couldn't quite understand where I was going or how deep I was going to go into that. And it took a lot of courage and
definitely. Definitely. Jeannine, I want to go back to something I touched on in the introduction around the root of trauma. And so we've briefly touched on the trauma that comes from adoption. Now, that's to say that adoption, for all intents and purposes, is a wonderful gift of another life to a baby. However, every single solitary adopted person I know, and I grew up with an adopted sister and found another adopted half sister later in life, there is a wound there. There's a deep and abiding wound. Now that's just the adoption wound, and it with it often comes intergenerational trauma. So from your perspective, let's just delve into those topics a little bit, because this is where spiritual healing and the energy healing arts and really comes into its own in healing those traumas, in helping people to come to terms with those things. And then, of course, you go deeper into intergenerational trauma and healing, and what that can mean for a person coming out the other side. So from your perspective, Jeannine, let's explore that first, if that's okay with you.
Please, yes, I am here for all of that. Absolutely.
So what age did you know that you were adopted?
When I was very young, I already knew.
Yes.
It was just flipped into the mix, and my brother was
Yes.
adopted as well, right
Yeah.
underneath. But then my parents had two others biologically.
Ah.
Yeah,
So
my mother struggled for years trying to have babies and miscarried so many, and then adopted my brother and I, and then the biological came. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And so growing up, you always knew. Was there always a sense that you were missing something because you were not with your birth mother?
Absolutely. It was, and it was so in the thread of my being, in the fabric of my being, that you don't realize the hollowness. You just figure everybody feels this way. I remember looking at the moon, wondering if she was looking at the moon the same time I was, or
Yeah.
why my fingers look the way they do, and why I was so sensitive,
Mm.
and I looked so different, somewhat, because back then you could sort of pick your child and the nationalities.
Yes. And so there was a fairly good match, I'm assuming.
Yes, I looked more like my cousins, the red hair. All my cousins had red
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
Parents had two children, and they didn't look anything like our
Yeah.
cousins. And so, yeah, so there was some similarities there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeannine, I want to talk about your own journey in healing those wounds and what worked for you and what helped the most.
Sure. It was really, and it still is, it's kind of a lifelong journey. Even though I
Yeah.
know this here, I realize, and perhaps this is part of the answer, is knowing that when you do have that separation wound or such a feeling of being different, that may be something that's with you all the time. And
Mhm.
so looking for like a finish line answer that's going to heal everything for you may not be it out there. And so I
Yes.
really had to turn inward and find a different type of a grounding and a rootedness and a filling up of what that means for me on the inside. And I even met my biological mother.
Ah, that was one of my questions as well.
Yeah,
Can you tell us about that, Jeannine?
sure. I reached out and found her, and she did the same before there was internet. Right when just before I
Mm,
turned 21, it was an underground society, because in Chicago, especially, all the files are sealed, so you're not allowed
yeah.
to look them up. It was
Yeah.
pretty much illegal. We found each other, and she, that woman, to this day, I feel for her. She had me, and they stuck her in a back room.
Yeah.
And again, she was in a room for unwed mothers and a home for unwed mothers. And then when she gave birth, they put her in a back room. Nobody helped her. She gave birth
Yes.
to me by herself.
I
And she,
hear that so often. The treatment of the birth mothers was just diabolical, just diabolically bad.
horrible. And then they came in and they said, "You're not supposed to see this," meaning me. And they scold her for, of course, here she is, my baby's here. And they come and they take me, and then they stick her in a room full of nursing mothers. And whenever she came to the nursery to see me, she wasn't allowed to hold me. But when she came to the nursery to see me, some nuns came up to her and said, "Don't worry, you'll have another like that someday." And so that was it. That was the extent of the support for her. And she was expected to go on with her life and just have another baby. And
Yeah.
so she went on and proceeded to have 5 boys, trying to,
Oh,
and they're
horrible.
beautiful. They're my half brothers. So, but they never helped her. And to this day, it's really a pocketed wound within her system.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, as a mother myself, I cannot imagine giving birth and going through all of that and then having that precious little being ripped away from you. The concept for me hurts my hurts deep within me. That pain for those mothers back then, and it's not an unfamiliar story, is it? Um, so did you end up having a relationship with your birth mom? Or you
Yes,
just, yeah?
we have one now. We have one now. And it's been years in the making
Yeah.
because her wound was still so
Yes.
tense and hot. And I was trying to figure out how to fit her into my life as well. And
Mm-hmm.
she missed the baby, even though the adult was there and there was a space between that. But we have found our way, and
Oh,
we're connected now, but there's still, even though
oh
I'm
yes.
here, the loss of the time and the space that she
Mm.
mourns. And
Yeah.
no doubt I do on a soul level to this day. I mean, I know that it's all orchestrated as it's meant to be, but
Mm-hmm.
she's loving and gracious and kind. But there were some rough patches in the middle there that we were just all trying to work it out from our trauma.
Yeah. So let's go back to the trauma and the energy that sits around trauma. And I say that with the understanding that eh, we're all energy, aren't we, Jeannine?
We are all energy first.
Mm,
Absolutely. And I see this because, having examined, as a healer, examining the energy I came from my biological family,
mhm.
and then the energy that I was adopted from with my adopted
Yes.
family, and that they both are me. They both resonate. And so when
Yeah.
we meet that energy first, then we realize that it's not just what we focus on and what we hope that will manifest in our life, but really going to the trauma, going to the darkness, because wherever you go, there you are. We
Yeah.
cannot compartmentalize any longer.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
And we need to acknowledge that compartmentalizing is often a strategy for dealing with trauma. So you pack it into a box and put it away, never to have to deal with it again. But as a human being, that doesn't work, because there's a piece of you that sits in the back there like a bit of a sore or an open wound that never gets healed. So it's the healing that you need to embrace. And as I said before earlier in the interview, healing energy or using energy work to heal past trauma is one of the most powerful methods I know, often coupled with traditional therapy and counseling, but it's the energy healing that often moves people further than they've been able to get with traditional counseling or therapy. That's been your experience too, Jeannine.
That is the crux of my work. I want to thank you for saying all that, because you just saved it coming from me. That is what I do. My clients are the ones that come to me who have who've been down the healing journey for a while. Or some of them are fresh as well, but they have the tools. Like
Yes,
they're like, listen, I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing meditation, I'm doing the diets, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. How come I'm just not getting that final threshold? I'm like, let's go here.
yeah,
And when we go to that underbelly, that is when some true magic happens for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the often the change that the change you need to see. It is the thing that moves you, because you can do lots of stuff. You can do lots of work in counseling and therapy and a whole heap of different modalities. But from my perspective, the energy healing and work is the most powerful, because it seems to work at a deeper level
Mhm.
within your body, your mind, your soul even. And with that word soul, I just want to quickly delve into, in your bio you talk about the shamanic root of some trauma. Can you talk to the audience about that too, Jeannine?
Sure. I love that you brought that up. And you had mentioned something earlier that really struck me as well, is the
Mhm.
ancestral piece of this.
Yes.
Oftentimes, to meld the soul with the ancestral portion of it, whether it's biological or adopted, whatever family that you get that foundational piece from, they
Yeah.
are an energetic match because everything's energy first. This is how I see it when I meditate. People
Mm.
come in, when I do the work, we are a frequency, and that's not just
Yes.
spiritualism. That is a quantum physics, that is a physics understanding.
Yeah.
And so when we come in, we have the parts of us that are, let's say, easier or more refined, and then there's the dark stuff, right? Or
Yeah.
the hard, more
The hard
challenging that we
work, the hard work part.
thank you, that we are here to the challenge that is going to strengthen us, that we have the capacity to evolve beyond. And so the soul, that's where I dive in. I'm like, okay, where did this root trauma really begin? And
Yeah.
I go into that soul energy, and some people call it past lives. I absolutely see it as lifetimes beyond this one.
Yes.
But the context of that life was different. And our capacity to understand it wasn't quite the same.
No,
So I'll go
we've
into that.
evolved in our
We will.
understanding. Many of us have evolved in our understanding and awareness. And so when that trauma was taking place in that ancient life, there wasn't the same awareness or understanding, or there were just elements of it. So as we grow and evolve as humans, the capacity to know and understand things that happened millennia ago becomes stronger, doesn't it?
Again, exactly. I love that you see this. This is what it's like. And I even have a little fun saying for it. I say that you can't become a master of driving in the snow by moving to Florida, which if
Mm,
anybody knows Florida, it's very
yeah,
tropical. They don't have snow
tropical.
there. But it's what I mean by that is that imagine I'm like a 16-year-old girl driving in stormy Chicago, snowy
Mm,
Chicago, and I spin
yeah,
out on the freeway. And then
yeah.
I get so scared and so jarred. I'm like, that's it. I'm never gonna go on a
Driving in
snowy
snow
road again.
again.
Out of fear, I choose all these different ways to live, not on an
Mm,
authenticity, but out of fear. Fine. And I never become great at it. And so versus like, okay, that was super scary. Let me go
mm.
back there again. And now I'm a 50
Unpack
some year
it.
old. I'm unpacked. So I'm 50 some years old. I'm on the same freeway, same snowstorm. Could it happen? Sure. But I'm different. And this is how I work
Mm,
with people.
yeah.
I'll go into the chakras. I'll go into it and I'll say, okay, let me find out the theme of that chakra. What is the root lifetime that caused the same dynamic you are living now? Because you're in the same snowstorm. but you are the medicine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The issue came, the trauma, the wound came before. You are the medicine. We just have to separate that out. So I find out the name, I find out the place, I find out what brought it out. We work with that individual, we work at that past life, and then they become free. It's almost like they can organize
Mm.
that away, and they can access their consciousness, the medicine that they are,
Yeah.
to bring that about for better results in this life. Yeah.
Jeannine, often, you'll hear, there's one of the sayings that I particularly love, that goes, "We are the granddaughters of the witches you couldn't burn at the stake." And it's in reference to the voices of women and the fact that for many of us, speaking up and speaking out is held back because of that DNA, that deep millennia back, where women were not were persecuted for speaking up, or the healing arts, the medicinal arts were persecuted because of that. And so for modern women, loads and loads and loads and loads of us still battle with that witch wound, so to speak. But the thing is that once you have an awareness that this could be playing out in your life, then it's the spiritual and energy work that will move you through and past that and heal that, so that you can speak out, speak up, and be the person you're meant to be. Because from my perspective, the importance of that is that I believe that women, or the feminine essence of humanity, needs to rebalance across the globe, to be doing things differently, to protecting the planet differently, to usher in a new abundance that is shared by everyone, because there are elements of feminine identity that are powerful components for changing the world. And key to those are around the healing and nurturing gifts and arts of femininity, the witches of old, if you like. But if you go back millennia, go right back to the early essence of humanity, many women were revered as goddesses because of their intuition, their healing, their energy work, their wisdom and knowledge. We as humanity have forgotten our way, and I believe it's people like you, Jeannine, and all the wonderful women in the healing and spiritual arts are bringing back, and it's a powerful time to be alive.
Toni, my goosebumps have goosebumps. I have goosebumps everywhere. Can I say triple yes? Yes. Yes. And I just want to invite people that, outside of imagining, like, gosh, what can I do to adjust this? The first place that I say is that we have 4 bodies. We have our spiritual body, the mental body, the
Yes.
emotional body, and the
Yes.
physical body. I call them the big
Yes.
4, right?
Yes.
And so a great way to really entrench this practice into our life is to meet all 4 of those bodies every day as if they are our babies.
Every
And
day.
be curious, because the feminine, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, if we
There
want
are
the feminine essence to
yes,
arise,
it's in everyone.
it's in everyone. It's the physical body is earth. The emotional body is water. So if we can meet we could say, oh my gosh, everybody's treating women badly out there. And I have
It's
stories
not
about that.
great.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But as a reflection, what are we doing to our femininity?
Mm,
Are we
yeah.
saying to our physical bodies, I know you're tired, but you know what? Too
You're going to keep
bad.
going.
Just keep
Exactly,
going. Is it like a
Jeannine.
dictatorship here?
Exactly.
Right? And so our emotional body as well, it's like, do we want to say to ourselves, hey, how are you feeling on the inside? No, 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 no. Don't let yourself have that emotion right now. It's not good. It's like nobody puts baby in the corner. I always imagine a little
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze coming to
Yes.
coax. dichotomy, right? And
Yeah.
so if we can give those, especially those two aspects within all of us, men or women, women especially, permission to take up space in our life,
Yeah.
then our very being is an invitation for others to do the same. And then
Absolutely.
that reflected in the world, because
Yeah.
our choices as women, we're so powerful with families
And
and whatnot. Our choices will be different, right?
And the other thing is that I've been exploring recently and I'm reluctant to use the word patriarchy.
Right.
However, it's adequate description for what I want to talk about, and the fact that within women there are elements of patriarchy that if we changed or realigned that thought pattern, so that leads into your that action taking. Oh, I can't be sick, I can't lie down, I can't, you know, feminine energy and essence is like this, like it goes up and down, and if you are a woman and really wanting to live and embrace and live life from that perspective, then you need to think about or give yourself the grace to go with that up and down. And that goes directly against what we are told as women and how we should be in business. So there's this go, 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 action, 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 action. That's not what's going to work for a woman who wants to work or be in her best self and her best feminine essence. There's a time and a place for those things. But if you're trying to live and work in that female flow, then one of those simple things is accepting that what you're told is, or what people say to you, or even the coaches that I've had are often in that masculine essence. And it's the go, go, go. You must do this, you must do that, you must da, 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 da. I think that it's our job, Jeannine, to bring women back into an understanding of there are going to be weeks when you are just not feeling it. And those are the weeks that you need to sit and be in quiet and solitude. And then there will come a period of go, 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 or more action. And then you have to step back in. And I think it's about giving women the tools, the healing, and the understanding that this is actually how you're meant to be. You're not meant to be this other. It's about encouraging women to be the true essence of themselves. And Jeannine, your spiritual work is solely focused on helping humanity be that best person, whether they're male or female.
Absolutely. I absolutely feel that in all ways. To me, it's about a balancing,
Yeah.
and I want to give everyone permission to be whole
Yes.
in that way. And I feel, when I do a reading, my eyes are closed. Like I don't look at the person that I'm with. And so I see everyone as that energy that you mentioned earlier. And so when I see that energy, I see a great sadness about so many
Mm,
people's, man or woman, about their emotional bodies and their physical bodies haven't been allowed. And yet their will and determination, which is that spirit, and the mental is like the favorite child, and the black sheep is either the emotional or the physical. And so when I say, when we give justice and balance in here, then we'll have justice for all out there
definitely.
as well. Yeah. And
Definitely.
so I love to empower people,
Mm.
encourage people, and to go deep as to where all those wounds are, especially too, because in past lives, we were all of it, man, right? We were all the different genders, and that has layers upon layers of trauma within us.
Yes.
And like you said, when we get it right in there, in today's context, there are masteries that just really leave us unstoppable. It's
Mm.
it's where the whole new world will begin from.
I I just couldn't agree with you more. And that very thought in itself brings me excitement and wonder, and where our granddaughters and grandsons could live and how they could live and what that might look like. It's an exciting to be part. And you would know, Jeannine, too, that there's such a rise in understanding and consciousness and awareness that is just blows me away. And I don't know sometimes if that is the wisdom that comes with age, or just the rise in consciousness and understanding that just happens to happen with age. But I do believe that we're in a different era, and that our age group in particular are ushering in a different time for humanity. And so I tend to be less cognizant of the doom and gloom that's generally out there, and more in line with the wonderful spiritual work that people like you are doing, Jeannine.
Thank you. You know, Tony, as you're speaking, I'm feeling the stars letting me know what that is. And I'm as an astrologer,
Yes.
people from our age group, you know, what we consider like becoming the elders now, where we're all kind of,
Yeah.
you know, we're moving up
Yeah.
into those older stages of life. We come from a generation that's known as the Pluto and Virgo generation,
Yeah.
and also the last bits of Pluto in Leo. And these are like 20-year chunks of time, you know,
They
15 to 20
are.
year.
They are. We talk about this, but they're big
Yes.
pieces of time.
And we are the ones that take that light. And Virgo is that of the Divine Mother. It is that of holding and healing. And so and
Yeah.
Pluto's the shaman, we go deep with that healing, and we can hold the space for what the younger generations are wanting to make happen, what
Uh-huh.
we have going on behind us. And so we're
Yeah.
holding the space for all that to take place, for
Which is
sure, and kind of defining it. Yeah.
it is a wonderful thing, and it is a blessing, and it is a soul choice to be here at this time and help usher in. I do believe that we are the last of our generation, yours and mine. We're the bridges, and the last. There will be no other generations like us, because they will be more evolved and more aware, and that's a beautiful thing to be part of, isn't it?
I love that you say the bridge. I call myself a bridger. I do.
Yes.
I have, and that's
Yes.
exactly what it is. Where we have felt the trauma, but yet we kind of hold it open and let the others go.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to really give that new blueprint for what's up ahead, for sure.
Because we have the capacity, if we do the work and the healing within ourselves, it releases past and forward. So the work that I do assists my daughter, my granddaughter, her daughter, and onward. So the more work we do, the better the result, so to speak, or the better the further forward they move in knowledge and understanding and consciousness.
And that goes right back to the be the change.
Mhm.
So instead of wondering how you could go out there and do it, oh,
Just be it.
start here. Start here. Am I giving, do I have a favorite child? Again, are there some black sheep within me that I don't pay attention to only if they have a meltdown? Go there
Yeah.
first with love, with grace. Find a way to redefine how you can fit that into your life, and
Mm-hmm.
then model that. And your frequency is shifting the world.
Yeah, yeah. And to understand that, just you might think that you're just this little spot of energy in the world, but understand that energy flows out, and
Yes.
you may never know your energy touches this person, who touches that person, who flows to that person. You have to think that you might be in that small space doing what you're meant to do, but that the impact is rippling across the world.
I love that. It's the butterfly effect.
Yeah,
And when we align to our deepest truth, I truly feel in that moment we become the ultimate instrument for spirit. We could
yeah,
sit there and you could probably tell me a gazillion stories as well, but I'll sit there and say, what? How is this changing this or that? Or I could just imagine the draw that I have. Why do I need to do this? It doesn't look like
yeah,
it'll affect.
yeah,
Later, I look like, oh, that's why.
yeah,
And it'll come for sure. So trust the calls that maybe
yes,
don't align with the external horizon. Oh
yeah,
man, but they align to this internal
yeah,
horizon. This is the
yes.
truest horizon, would
It
you
is.
say?
It is absolutely that internal vision, if you like, and it can be quite individual. So I'm a visual. I see visions. I have visions. I see things in color and detail with noise and sound and color. Just that's how I work. If I'm working with someone, they'll
Mhm.
for me, my gift is I can instantly see a vision. I can instantly see a picture, and I can describe it in great detail. And discovering that about myself later in life has been a big deal because we're born with that as children to be imaginative and visionary, but we lose it somewhere along the line. Let me tell you, when you discover it later in life after it's been missing, it's eye opening. And I want everyone to feel that way, which is why I'm so passionate about spiritual healers, the people who work in astrology and with the planets and with energy, because they give you insights that move you to that place. Jeannine, I want the audience to know that they have the opportunity to work with you. Can you tell them how they can do that?
Sure. You can hop on over to my website
Oh,
and
yes, it's a great
I
website.
oh, thank you. I offer one-on-one sessions, and so we could do it like just one-off sessions. And I also offer mentoring programs where
Oh,
I
yes,
work with the into the mystic, and that really speaks to going how you can become intuitive, whether you want to hang your shingle like I do or use it. I have so many people who are writers, creators, lawyers, just
yes,
anyway,
using
be
it.
your own directive individual. It's not about having to do what I do per se. And then I also have ancestral alchemy where we go into the ancestral work and we work with that as well.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. And you've got a special offer for our audience today, yeah?
I do 8% off of the mentoring programs, and you could use Mystic 8 at checkout.
Fantastic. And the links to do that will be associated with this interview wherever you're watching. Now, Jeannine, you also have a Patreon account, which I signed up to this morning. It's
Yeah,
just a
thank
little
you.
monthly. Can you tell the audience about how that works and what value people get from joining your Patreon subscription?
Absolutely. So I have a thing called the tribe, and that is what you signed up with.
Yes.
And I have it on Patreon and then also on my website. And what they both offer are just different tiers. What I do is I channel information for the energetic group that's in. So when we do get a new person in, it's not just I'm not just doing it
Oh,
in a random way. I really focus on the energy of the people that are there. And
yeah.
so you will get weekly moon reports, special event, meaning astrological event, and
Yeah.
there's discount and some of them monthly private readings. So yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I did that this morning and then quickly had to jump off and do other things. But Jeannine, your skills are quite diverse. So you don't focus on one methodology to help people. You have a whole toolkit of
I do.
things that you can utilize to help people in a mentoring capacity, in a one-off capacity, in a regular capacity. I want to encourage the audience to connect with this divine human to help move you from one place to another, to help lift and shift whatever trauma, to just help be a better human, to help you get through this life. And I encourage you to connect with Jeannine today. Jeannine, in closing, I want to know where you see yourself in 5 years.
I want to change the paradigm of this world. That might be a big ask for 5 years, but I'm going for it. I'm going for it. I'll be at my second Saturn return. And what I mean by that is really the approach we have around sensitivities, that word, traumas and triggers, where before we're like, oh, I'm sensitive, this doesn't feel good, or you're so sensitive, or a trigger comes up or a trauma, instead of pushing them down or having any little drop of my goal is to shift the awareness to run to the triggers, run to the trauma, bathe yourself in the sensitivity, because it is your mastery and your ultimate healing that sits behind that. And especially if we could share this with our children and let them have the rhythm that they learn how to be with their bodies in the way that they need to be, not our imposed conditioning upon them, and that they'll still be okay. If we could shift that around, I feel like that is going to be how the new generation rises.
And wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be so if we just talk about that little component called triggers, if we could teach children that feeling that you feel is related to something triggering in you, and perhaps the word trigger is not right for children, but if they're feeling some certain way, to then go, okay, why am I feeling that way? Oh, that's because I got in trouble for lying or da 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 da. And for them to then have that internal conversation that goes, well, actually, I did something wrong, but that I am not bad. I just need to do things differently or better. So, and that tiny piece of work would change so much across the globe, wouldn't it? Like just teaching every human being that those feelings you have are valid and therefore a reason. Sit with them, take a breath, go, oh, what's that about? Instead of running away or packing it up or hiding it somewhere.
Because wherever you go, there you are, and you're gonna find it. It's gonna come. So why not go there first? It's gonna come. So support the mothers and the fathers and the families that are learning this as well, because we didn't have this growing up, right? Like we didn't, and nobody did. But I feel like if we can say it's okay and just take the shame off of it and offer up a new way to be with them, like run to them instead of away from them. I feel like that alone, it's messy, it's scary,
it takes a lot of courage. It is very messy, but
and it's not as charged when you don't try to run away from it. Do you find that it's like less charged, right?
Yeah. And and the thing is, though, once you start having an awareness, that in itself starts to change things. And coupled with that, you actually need to be really kind to yourself all the time. Like, be kind to yourself first and foremost. If you're kind to yourself first and foremost, it helps you be kind to the world. And that's the place where you can start. Oh, I'm feeling yucky. Instead of reacting to the world or passing that ickiness on to the world, like the guy that girl, whoever that cuts in the traffic, there's something going on in their life that causes them to disrespect anyone else on the highway and do that. So instead of going, rah, 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 you horrible person, take a breath and go, oh, universe, what are they going through? Like, what are they dealing with? What's happening? And go, and then wish them love and light. I wish them love and light, understanding and helpfulness. If we all did that, it would just change a whole heap of things across the planet. But in the meantime, we have the wonderful Jeannie to help you on that road of discovery and learning. And audience, today, I want to encourage you to reach out to this beautiful human being, connect with her, and see how she can help you in your life. Jeannine, thank you so much for being on the Everyday Business Show today. It's a divine pleasure to chat with you, talk with you, and explore these topics. I know that you have an important place in the change that we need to see and be, and I look forward to our connectedness going on.
Oh, Toni, thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate your wisdom. And I loved how in sync we were today. It tells me that it's growing, growing, growing. So thank you
You
for all
have
the
to
vitality
say,
you bring.
I'm noticing that too, particularly with my female connections, my women friends. There is a synchronicity that I have never experienced up until now. And I will be in a conversation, in an interview, talking something about business, and it will just evolve. And I'm like, wow, like it leaves me breathless with possibility. And I want that for everyone. I want you to experience what Jeannine and I are experiencing. I want that for everyone. And it's available to everyone, isn't it?
Is available. Thanks to you, Toni, bringing it out there even more. Yay! Yay,
I
Toni!
am doing my bit. Wonderful
You
audience.
are.
I have to let the lovely Jeannine go. It's been a fabulous conversation. We will be back next week with more on the Everyday Business Show. Please thank the gorgeous Jeannine Kim for being here on the Everyday Business Show today. I'm your host, Toni Lontis, and please watch out for the show notes that go with the show so you can connect with Jeannine today. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now. Of shows with business owners that puts them in front of a global audience. And in behind those shows is a whole range of things, from digital magazines to social media to blogging to email to lead generation, just a whole range of things.